hyper in a different way. Let us continue. Yeah, I'll put the link to this in the description box below so you guys can see it.
Documents state 37-year-old LaDonna Wiggins purchased using money she received from the CARES Act. The document says Wiggins received about $3.7 million after submitting 2 PPP loan applications for businesses known as Wiggins and Grams Enterprises, LLC, and Pink Lady Line. The document states she used the funds to make lavish personal purchases, this home allegedly being one of them.
Hi, looking for LaDonna Wiggins?
She's not here.
She's not here?
When someone finally came to